वेदान्तदेशिकेतीन्द्रमहं प्रपद्ये श्रीमद्रङ्गजठारिसम्यमिवराल्लब्धागमान्तद्वयं श्रीमद्वीररघूद्वहाद्यषडजित्पादारविन्दाश्रयं श्रीमद्वेदवतं सदेशिकेतेः कारुण्यवीक्षास्पदं सेवे रङ्गधुरीणशासनवशं नारायणं योगिनं वेदान्तदेशिकेरीशरटाक्षलब्धत्रय्यन्तसारम् अनवद्यगुणं बुधाग्र्यं नारायणाद्येतिधुर्यकृपाभिषिक्तं श्रीरङ्गनाथ इति शेखरमाश्रयामः। श्रीमते श्रीवंशटगोप श्री वेदांतदेशिकेतीन्द्र महादेशिकाय नमः। श्रीमते श्रीलक्ष्मीनृसिंह दिव्यपादुका सेवक श्रीवंशटगोप श्री नारायण यतीन्द्र महादेशिकाय नमः। श्रीमते श्रीवंशटगोप श्री रंगनाथ यतीन्द्र महादेशिकाय नमः। Welcome everyone. Welcome to yet another of our Saturday Sri Ahobila Mutt storytelling sessions. So today, as you can see from my screen, the topic we are going to talk about, or the source of all the stories we are going to discuss today, is what I have called here as the 3 Ds. Okay, and this is based on a story from one of the Upanishads, and that tells us something about how we should all live. The Upanishads are all there. The purpose of the Upanishads is to teach all of us how to understand Perumal, how to live, and how to lead happy, peaceful lives along with Perumal, right? So that is the objective of the Upanishads. And in order to do so, as we have seen many times before, the Upanishads tell us a lot of stories, right? There are a lot of little stories that the Upanishads tell us. This is one such story we are going to see today. Okay, and why do we call it the story of the 3 Ds? We will see in a minute. Okay, but before we go to that, the question is, where is today's story coming from? Today's story is coming from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Okay, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is, as the name suggests, it's a very large Upanishads. Upanishads can come in many sizes, right? There are some Upanishads that are very small, some Upanishads that are medium sized, some that are very large. This is an Upanishad that is very large, and that's why it has the name Brihat in it. The Brihat means large, and true to its name, the Upanishad is very big. It is part of the Yajurvedam, and in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, this story appears in the 7th Adhyaya. The way the Upanishad is broken down differs according to how various acharyas have viewed it, but in the way in our Vishishtadvaita Sampradayam, we look at it as part of the 7th Adhyaya. And what I put on the right hand side is the extract of the Upanishad which refers to the story. Okay, so before we start the story, if you look at the image on the right hand side, does anybody recognize what language this is written in?
Grantha.
Okay, Grantham is the script, not the language, right? So the language, as usual for all the Upanishads, is in Sanskrit. So it's very good that you identified that the script is called Grantham. Okay, so I mean, as you find time, we should all try to find the opportunity to learn the Grantham script, because a lot of old books are still available only in this Grantham script. And what is the significance of the Grantham script? The Grantham script is basically a script for Sanskrit that was developed in the southern part of the country. That is why you will see that a lot of the letters of the Grantham script are very similar to the letters we see in Tamil as well, right? So the same language, the language of Sanskrit was written with the Devanagari script in the north, the Grantham script in the south, but everybody, the whole country was reading Sanskrit, was learning philosophical things in Sanskrit. So I just wanted to sort of also, for you to have an exposure to that, you should also remember that this script existed. So most of the work that we see today in Sanskrit is not in this script, but as aspirants of people who want to learn about our Sampradayam, it's important that you also get to know about the script and learn it as you grow older. Anyway, so the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is where the story is from. And the story is a very simple one. It's not a very complicated one, but we are going to see some offshoots of that story that, we see examples from our Sampradayam that tell us something about the inner meaning of that story. Okay. As always, the stories we look at will be simple ones. The main characters, again, like last time, like when 1 month ago when I spoke to you guys, the story had mainly three people, right? It had Prajapati, it had Indra and Virochana in the previous story. Today's story again has Prajapati, and it has similar characters. But the person on the left is Prajapati, or who we know as Brahma, who is supposed to be the creator of all kinds of people. Brahma has appointed him as the person who does the job of creation. And then the other characters in the story are three different categories of beings. So the Devas, who are represented by the first image there, Indra sitting on his elephant. Then there was the class of the human beings and the class of the asuras. Okay, Devas, human beings, and asuras, and Prajapati. Okay, so those are the people who are the characters in the story. Okay, and what is the story? The story is a simple one. So once what happened, and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad tells us about this episode. Once what happened was that all of these people, the Devas, the human beings, and the Asuras, all of them went to Prajapati. Okay, and Prajapati is supposed to be the learned one. Prajapati is supposed to be the one who knows the reality of the universe, the reality of Paramount, the reality of the self, the reality of matter, all of those things Prajapati knows. The reason Prajapati knows these things well is that Perumal has given him that knowledge, right? Perumal created Prajapati and gave him the knowledge in the form of the Vedas. So not only the words of the Vedas, the meaning of the Vedas as well was given to Prajapati. So all of these people went to Prajapati when they had questions, when they wanted to understand difficult concepts, they would go to Prajapati. So the story is about one of those episodes where everybody went, like the Devas went, the human beings went, and the Asuras went. All of them went to Prajapati with the objective that they wanted to learn something important. Okay, and like in all of the other stories, they went and did a lot of Kainkaryam to Prajapati. They did a lot of work for him. They were there with him for a long period of time. And then at the end of that, Prajapati said, guys, what do you want? First, he called the Devas. Okay. And to the Devas, he said, what do you want? And the Devas said to him, oh, Prajapati, we are here to learn from you. Please teach us. Okay. So the Devas, humans, and Asuras went to Prajapati. That's the context of the story. So the Devas went to Prajapati. I think I have a small. Okay, that's true. I need to keep track of my own slides, I suppose. Okay, so they went to Prajapati, and Prajapati first asked them the question. First asked Devas the question. Tell me what can I tell? What do you want? They said, I want some knowledge, because each of them had the objective saying, oh master, we would like you to teach us. So when Prajapati heard from the Devas, okay, we want to learn something from you, he said, okay, let me teach you something. So the Devas were very eager. They said, okay, we are going to hear something really complicated from Prajapati. Let us start taking notes. Let us open our notebooks. Let us start writing down. He's going to tell us something very, very long, very complicated. But Prajapati, what he said was, he just said not even one word. He went and he just told them one letter. He just said, Da. So the Devas, they heard this word, Da, and Prajapati said, okay, do you understand what I mean? The Devas thought about it for a little while. They looked at each other. And by this time, just remember that they have been working for Prajapati, right? They have been doing Kainkaryam for him. They have been with him for a long time. So they, just by observing Prajapati, the way he is their Acharya. Just by way of observing the Acharya, they've already assimilated and learned some knowledge. So when Prajapati said, Da, they said, okay, we understand. And Prajapati said, okay, I just told you one letter. What did you understand? Okay, and the Devas said, when you say da, that stands for the word damyata. Okay, when you say da to us, it must mean the word damyata. What does damyata mean? So to understand what that word damyata means, you need to understand what the life of the Devas is like, right? The Devas live in happiness, because becoming a Deva is a superior position, right? Of all the positions you could want in the universe, being a Deva is a superior position, because you need to do a lot of good deeds. You need to do a lot of punyam to become a Deva, and they live in this very fantastic place. They live in happiness. They have a lot of riches. The Upanishads and the Puranas tell us a lot of stories about all the amazing things that the Devas have. The Devas have this tree called Parijata, and that tree, whatever you ask for, that tree will give you, and that tree will have no end to the amount of flowers it can produce. Similarly, they have a whole bunch of things. Perumal himself, he too went through a lot of effort and got the nectar of immortality for the Devas to gain strength. So the Devas, in a way, on a day-to-day basis, they have nothing to worry about, right? So since they have nothing to worry about, they live like they have nothing to worry about, right? So they are always partying, they are having fun, they are reveling in all of their riches. They have everything that they have. They say, oh, we are the richest people in the world, and they live without control. Okay, so when the Devas went to Prajapati and said, teach us, Prajapati said, look, this is the one flaw that you have. You're all great people, because every Deva has a job in the world, right? Indra has a job, Agni has a job, Varuna has a job. All of them are doing so much good for the world, right? But you live as if you have nothing to worry about. You live without any controls. So he said, Damyata. Damyata means have self-control. Don't, just because you have all of these great things, just because you have all of these riches, don't behave as if you are the masters of the universe. Remember that all of this material happiness that you have will end one day. So have self-control, and the senses that you spend in enjoying all this money and wealth and all of these things, what Prajapati said to them was, take that away from all of these material enjoyments and put it on Perumal. Start thinking about Perumal. Don't waste your time and energy just having fun all the time. He said, take it away from that and go to Perumal. Okay, so that was the teaching that Prajapati gave to the Devas, and he just said the word da, and they understood, because they had been learning by observing him, and they understood that the teaching for the Devas was Damyata. Okay. Similarly, the humans went next, and they asked the same question, Prajapati, please teach us something. So they thought, okay, you know what, Prajapati has given the Devas some lot of advice, maybe he'll tell us something different. Prajapati said, okay, yeah, you want to learn something? Da. And similarly, the humans had also been with Prajapati, so they understood what does this da mean, and they understood that that there was a teaching for them. They also understood that the teaching for them was different from the teaching that was given to the Devas. So Prajapati asked the humans, hey, what did you understand? They said, yeah, we understand what you mean. And by the word da, what you're saying to us is datta. Datta means give. Because he knows, so Prajapati was pointing out to the humans that all you're doing all day long is to accumulate things. See, the Devas, they have all of these, all of this wealth that has been given to them, right? The humans, they want to become like the Devas. Or in day-to-day life, everybody wants to become better than what they were before, right? So they all continuously try to accumulate wealth, right? So all that they're looking to do, like as ugly as that picture looks, that is what the humans are trying to do. They're trying to fill their life with more and more and more because they have more and more want. So what Prajapati was trying to tell them was, don't keep accumulating for yourself. Give away to other people. So to the Devas, he said, don't keep enjoying what you already have. Take that energy, take that effort and spend it on Perumal. Try to understand Perumal. Try to develop bhakti to Perumal. To the humans, he said, don't keep accumulating, give away. The wealth that you accumulate is not going to help you. Give it away so that by giving away your wealth, you will have more appreciation for the grace of Perumal rather than just the wealth that you're accumulating. Okay, so the teaching that Prajapati gave to the humans was also da, but to them that was a different da. He's saying datta. Okay, so for the devas it was damyata, for humans it was datta. Okay, then came the asuras. The asuras also said, "Oh Prajapati, please teach us something." Obviously, now I don't even need to tell you. He told them again. He said one more. Okay, you want to learn something? Here is another da for you. And the asuras also thought among each other and said, and Prajapati asked asuras, you may not understand. You're like brutal, brutes. Do you really understand what I'm saying? They said, yeah, we understand. And what did they understand? They said that, look, just like the asura, the devas and humans, we also have a flaw. Our flaw is that we are too brutal, right? We want to kill. We want to make other people feel bad. We want to make them. We want to put them through trouble. So the da that you are telling us to pursue is dayadhvam. Dayadhvam means be compassionate. Okay, so the asuras are constantly, so many stories we have heard. The asuras only have the nature to give other people some trouble. Of course, there are exceptions in all of those categories, but predominantly the asuras are people who are not compassionate, right? So the message that Prajapati gave to the asuras was be compassionate, and that also he said with the same word dayadhvam, da which implies dayadhvam. Okay, so the story, that's where the story ends. Okay, the interesting part of the story is that Prajapati said the same letter to the three people. For each of those three people, the message was different, the meaning was different, what they had to take away was different, and they all went away and they followed the words of Prajapati and made themselves better. So the import of the story is not to say that, okay, if you're a human, there is one thing to do. If you're a deva, there is one thing to do. If you're an asura, there is one thing. There are aspects of all of these things in all of us. Okay, so the message to us is that we have to have all of these three things: damyata, datta, dayadhvam. Okay, have self-control, be gracious, give away, don't accumulate, give away to people, and third is be compassionate. Okay, so those are the three things that the Upanishads tell all human beings, whoever is trying to understand the meaning of the Vedas, meaning of Perumal, all of these things. Unless you have these three features, we cannot make progress in the journey towards understanding Perumal. Okay, so of course, theoretically, all of it makes sense. But how do we make all of these? How do we implement all of this in our lives? Obviously, we have so many examples from our Guru Parampara. Okay, so we will see a few examples from our Guru Parampara of people who have been those who exemplify all of these three things. Okay, damyata, datta, and dayadhvam. Okay, so have self-control, give away, and be compassionate. The first story we are going to see is that of this person called Pillai Aurangavillidasa. Okay, now how many of you know the story of Pillai Aurangavillidasa? I'm sure some of you have heard the story, right? Does anyone know? No? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I know the story.
Okay, tell us, Shimon.
There was this person who he I don't know if it's the story for sure, but he said that his wife's kanna was the most beautiful thing in the world.
Yeah.
And then Ramanujar came and told I will give you one thing that is more beautiful, then Ramanuja showed him Ranganathar's eyes.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Excellent. Okay. So that's the in a crux. Simon told us the story extremely well. So this is a story of this person called Pillai Rangavalidasar. I'll go through some further details of that story so that you understand more about his life. So Pillai Rangavalidasar, his name was also called Dhanurdasar. Okay. He was by profession he was a wrestler. Okay. So he used to work in those days. They used to have like kings used to have their they have their court poet, right? Like they have the Asthana poet, they have the Asthana wrestler. So they have so this Dhanurdasar was a famous wrestler. He was known for his strength, he was known for his valor, but also he had a very beautiful wife. Okay, so just as much as his strength was known everywhere, his wife's beauty was also known everywhere, and he was very proud of his wife. He was very proud of the fact that his wife was so beautiful. Okay, so he was so proud of his wife's beauty, and he was so protective of his wife's beauty that what he would do is, remember that in South India there is especially in the summer, temperatures can go very high, right? It can be very sunny, it can be very oppressive, and so on, right? So in those days they did not have sunscreen and all those things. So what this Dhanurdasar used to do, is Pillai Rangavalidasar, what he used to do was he used to hold an umbrella for his wife. Okay, and usually what do you do when you hold an umbrella? You walk behind the person, right? But he could not bear to not watch his wife, so he used to walk ahead of her. Okay, he used to walk backwards, facing her, holding the umbrella, and she used to walk forward. And constantly his gaze was fixed on his wife because he thought she was so beautiful. Okay, so like the Devas, like in the story of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, like the Devas, he was constantly enjoying material things. He was looking at his wife's beauty, and that's all he could think of. He had no control, right? See, he was constantly thinking of his wife. Okay, and Ramanujar one day this Dhanurdasar used to do this all the time. He was walking by the banks of the Kaveri river. He used to hold an umbrella, watch his wife, and just walk backwards as his wife walked forward. So one day, Dhanurdasar was doing this, and Ramanujar came along with all of his disciples. And he saw from a distance this guy it's a little bit of a weird thing to do, right? If you're like while walking in front of your wife, you're walking backwards. Like if a small kid walks backwards, that's good. But if an adult walks backwards, it's a little bit wonky, right? So Ramanuja asked his disciple, "Who's this guy?" They said, "I don't know. Maybe we'll call him and ask him." So they called him and asked him, like, well, why are you doing this? You're walking backwards and you're holding an umbrella. You don't, and your wife is walking in front of you. So it was obvious that it is his wife. So why are you doing this? So this Dhanurdasar told him why he was doing it, saying that, look, you know what? My wife is the most beautiful thing that has ever been created. I don't want her to be, badly affected by the sun. So I want to hold an umbrella. I just can't bear to not watch her all the time. So I keep watching her all the time, and I'm making sure that she has such beautiful eyes. I don't want the sun to affect her eyes. And that's what I was doing. So Ramanujar saw, and the people also told him that, okay, this guy is a famous wrestler and so on, and he's very well known, and also he was known to be a very smart person. So Ramanuja thought, okay, here is somebody who can benefit from getting a message of self-control, and who can benefit from taking all this energy that he's spending on his wife and take it away and use that in the service of Perumal. So Ramanuja's intention was not to take him away from his wife, but he had an obsession, right? So he said, you should not be obsessed with this. You have to have a controlled, love for your wife, but everything else you have to devote to Perumal. So Ramanuja said to him, okay, you're saying that you're doing all this because your wife's eyes are the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. If I show you something that is more beautiful, eyes that are more beautiful than your wife, will you stop doing this stupid thing, and will you devote your time and energy to something better? So he said, yeah, of course, I will take the bet. He said, because he was so confident that there can be nothing that is more beautiful than his own wife's eyes. Okay, so he told Ramanuja, yeah, that's fine. You show me something that is more beautiful, I will stop doing this and I will become your disciple. So immediately Ramanuja took him to the temple and he showed him the eyes of Perumal. Okay, so what he did was he said, I will show you something that someone who has much more beautiful eyes than your wife. And as he was going to the temple, Ramanuja prayed to Perumal. He prayed to Perumal saying, because picture this, right? Ramanuja is saying to Pillai that I will show you something that is more beautiful than the eyes of your wife, and he's taking him to Periya Perumal, right? In Srirangam. Now we are all seen that Perumal. Okay, how many of us, when we see that Perumal, get the feeling, oh, these are the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen? A lot of us don't. That is because Perumal has not given us his grace. Like if Perumal so chooses, he can reveal his beauty in a way. He can reveal his beauty to us in a way that we will be completely transfixed on it. He can reveal his beauty to us in a way that we will understand the reality of Perumal's beauty. Okay, so Ramanuja prayed to Perumal saying, you have to reveal the depth of your beauty to this guy, because he can be a great disciple of this sampradaya. So Perumal heeded Ramanuja's words, and when Pillai was taken to the temple, Ramanuja said, oh, look at Ranganatha's eyes. And at that moment, Ranganatha showered Pillai with so much of his affection, so much of his beauty, that Pillai was able to see the greatness of the beauty of Perumal. In a way, he understood that all these worldly things, just like the Devas, all these worldly things really don't matter. I need to have control and I need to have bhakti at the feet of Perumal. Okay. The moment he did that, he fell at Ramanuja's feet and said, I have seen something a lot more beautiful than my wife's eyes, and I will become a disciple of yours. Okay. So Ramanuja passed on this message of Damyata by showing that all these worldly pleasures are all very minor when you look at the superlative, the huge pleasure of Perumal's beauty. Okay, so that was the part of the story of Pillai. But let's just, before we move on to the rest of Pillai story, quick question for you. Okay, very simple one. There will be, this is so simple that only a few points for answering this question. Okay, which Alvar wrote about the beauty of Sri Ranganatha from feet to his head?
Alvar.
Excellent. Okay.
And what was the answer on the when you share your screen, we can see the next slide on the we can see the answer on the next slide.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, so basically what's happening is it's like showing the answer on the next slide, even though the questions on
is it showing you two screens each time?
Yeah, it's showing two screens.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm not supposed to be sharing both screens, but let's see. Okay. All right. So I guess I'll ask the question and then show. Okay, I'll stay 2 steps behind in my next screen. Okay. So the answer to that, of course, was Tirupan Alvar, and the words that he said at the end of and Tirupan Alvar's Prabandham is called what?
Amalanadi last welcome was Kondal Vanane Kolana Yenna Wayan Yenulang Gavardani Undergone Ani Arangan Yenavudine Kanda Kandal Matron Rene Kana Ave.
Excellent, and that is Aparajitan, right?
Yes.
Okay, excellent, Aparajitan. Very good. So the last Pashuram is a beautiful Pashuram where Alvar says, once I see the beauty of Perumal in Namudine Kanda Kangal, once I see the beauty of Perumal, all these worldly pleasures become meaningless to me. Okay, so that's the core of the meaning of Damyata is that. The meaning of Damyata is not that, oh, you don't look at anything, you just close your eyes, you forget about everything. We have to take all that energy we have as human beings, we have all that energy and love and all those things, right? And you have to take all that and put it at the feet of Perumal. And that is what Tirupan Alvar says. Okay, one more question. Now that you can see the other screen, you can see the question on the screen, right? So what is the name of the stotram that Swami Desikan wrote about the same?
Bhagavad Dhyana
Bhagavad
Sopanam.
Dhyana Sopanam.
Bhagavad Dhyana Sopanam. Exactly. So Swami Desikan's devotion to Tirupanarvar was very high, right? When Swami Desikan talks about all the Alvars, only for Tirupanarvar he uses the word Nam Panavada. Okay, and he wrote a prabandham. He was so inspired by Tirupanarvar that he wrote a prabandham exactly along the same lines, and that prabandham was called Bhagavad Dhyana Sopanam. Okay, all right. So anyway, coming back to the story of Puliyarangavali Dasar. So Puliyarangavali Dasar's transformation was so great. I won't go into all of these details because we're running quite short of time. That Puliyarangavali Dasar's story is there, of course, in the Guru Parampara. The storybook about our. Sorry, one second. Yeah. But Puliyarangavali Dasar's references about him appear in so many places throughout the Vyakhyanams, throughout the commentaries of the Divya Prabandhams. Our Acharyas tell us so much about Puliyarangavali Dasar, how much of a transformation he had. And in this, I mean, as I said, I'm not going to go into the details of this, but in the commentary of Trivrittam, our Acharyas say that whenever Kuratalwan used to recite the Thiruvaimari, give the meaning of the Thiruvaimari, all the other Sishyas would just listen to Thiruvaimari's meaning as something that is, the meaning of Nammalvar's words. But Puliyarangavali Dasar was so transformed, he was so taken in by the beauty of Perumal that as soon as Kuratalwan used to talk about Thiruvaimari, Puliyarangavali Dasar used to start crying. He used to think about the grace of Krishna. He used to think about the beauty of Krishna. He used to think about all the leelas of Krishna and start crying. So that's just one example of how, so across the Vyakhyanams of the Divya Prabandham, and Acharyas tell us so many stories about how Puliyarangavali Dasar had a transformation in his life. Okay, so that was how he exemplified the virtue of Damyata, right? Similarly, he also exemplified the virtues of Datta and Dayadvam. His wife. So we all just remember the story of Puliyarangavali Dasar himself, right? And Ramanuja basically wanted to tell him that his wife's beauty is not the greatest thing. But the rest of the story is also shown in the Guru Parampara. His wife herself, he and his wife, both of them became disciples of Ramanuja. His wife's name was Ponnachi. Okay, so they both realized that the service at the feet of Ramanuja and Perumal were what they were born for, and they became such ardent devotees. And there's one very beautiful story in their life. So the lot of these disciples of Ramanuja felt like, Ramanuja brought Puliyarangavali Dasar into the fold. He made him his disciple, and some of them thought, Puliyarangavali Dasar, okay, he's like one of us. What is so great about him? Why is Ramanuja so happy that Puliyarangavali Dasar has made this transformation? So Ramanuja said, you know what? Okay, just try this experiment. I will show you why this is that Puliyarangavali Dasar and his wife are such great people. He said, tonight, when they are sleeping, go to their house, go like burglars, right? Like burglars go into their house and try to steal the jewelry that Ponnachi is wearing, that lady is wearing. So, as instructed, these people went. They went to the house of Puliyarangavali Dasar and Ponnachi, and in the night, what they did was, in those days there was no locker and anything, right? If you had a lot of jewelry, you would just wear it on your body. That's how they would. The only safety for jewelry was to wear it on yourself. They did not keep it in any locker. So she was wearing all this jewelry. So she was sleeping on one side, and what they did was, as instructed, they started taking out the jewelry from herself, right? So she was sleeping on one side, so they took out one earring, they took out one nose ring, one side of her necklace they took out, one side of the bangles they took out, and as they were taking it out, Ponnachi woke up. Okay. She woke up, but she realized the people who are coming are people she recognized. she has seen those people around Ramanuja. They're not his core disciples, but they're people who are around Swami Ramanuja. And she thought, oh, see these great Bhagavatas. So what would you normally do, right? If some burglar is coming to your house, you start yelling and screaming and start bringing the roof down. She saw who these people were. She saw that they are Bhagavatas. And she thought, you know what? If they are coming to me and taking my jewelry, probably they need it. And so what she did was, okay, first of all, she was lying still until they took off all the jewelry on one side. Then she thought maybe they need more. So instead of making a big noise about it, what she did was she quietly turned over to the other side. She turned over to the other side so that they would take all the jewelry from the other side. So at that point, until then, she was lying still, right? So these people did not know that she was awake. Well, as soon as she turned, they suddenly realized, oh, she might be waking up, and they ran away. They did not want to get caught doing this, because after all, they're doing an experiment. They're not looking to steal anything, right? And they went away. They came to Ramanuja and said, oh, this is what happened. She turned and we came away. I don't know what you were looking to do, but I don't know how this tells us that they are such great people. Ramanuja said, go back to their house. Listen to what they are talking. So they went back and they stood outside and listened to what Ponnachi and Pullayarangavali Dasar were talking about. So by that time, both of them had woken up, and Ponnachi was basically, she was sitting up and she had jewelry only on one side of her body. And Dasar asked her, what's wrong? Why are you wearing jewelry only on one side of your body? So she said, all these people came. They look like Bhagavatas to me. And I thought, maybe they need all this jewelry. Maybe I need to give it to them. This is after all, I'm wearing it, but this is not mine. All of this is to give away. So I thought I would help them, and I quietly turned the other side, but suddenly I don't know what happened. They ran away. So Dasar said, oh, you made a huge mistake. So Dasar, there are two ways, right? If something like that happened to me, I would have either said, yeah, good thing you did that, or I would have gotten angry that they have come to steal. Dasar got angry, but not because they had come to steal. He got angry with his wife, saying, why did you move? I understand why they ran away. They ran away because they thought that you were awake. If you had laid still and waited for them, maybe they would have turned you over and taken the rest of the jewelry on their own. I don't know why you scared them away. All this jewelry is not for us. It is for us to give away. Okay? And then these people understood that is the true Sri Vaishnava Lakshana. That first of all, even Ponnachi, she wanted to give away all her stuff. That is the concept of datta, right? Datta means give things away, don't accumulate. She wanted to give it away. Dasar went even one step ahead, saying, you want to give it to them, but understand the way they are taking it and make sure that you give it. If you want to give something, give it to people in a way that they will be able to take whatever they want from you. And that is how they understood that the true nature, the depth of the nature of Pullayarangavali Dasar and his wife. And when they came back to Swami Ramanuja's Matham the next day, they went and they of course went to Ramanuja and said, oh, this was completely our fault for doubting that the greatness of this disciple of yours. It is all our fault. And Ramanuja said, if you have doubted him, you have to ask for forgiveness at his feet. And when they went and told Dasar all of these things, he did not get angry. He said, okay, maybe this is all the grace of Perumal, all Perumal's Leela, that he wants you to test me this way and for me to behave this way. And he was very compassionate towards them and said, you're all Bhagavatas, I am still your servant. Okay. So not only did Dasar's life exhibit the concept of Damyata, it was also Datta and Dayadham. Okay. So the words of the Upanishads have been carried on by Sri Vaishnavas generation after generation after generation. Obviously, you guys have now seen my next screen as well. There are stories from all of the other acharyas, several of our other acharyas. We would be missing a lot if we did not speak about these concepts from the life of Swami Deshikan. Okay, Swami Deshikan, as you know, Damyata, the self-control, living a life of austerity, was Swami Deshikan's was the motto of Swami Deshikan's life, right? This picture, obviously, the way Swami Deshikan's face has been drawn here. Obviously, does not probably do justice to the calm and serene person that Swami Deshikan was. But the story you might all recognize. Swami Deshikan lived a life of utter austerity. He did not accumulate any wealth for himself. Some people felt so bad for the way Swami was living that one day when they were giving him the bhiksha, they put a few gold coins in his bhiksha and said, maybe he will just take it as bhiksha, and maybe he will take these gold coins and use it. Maybe hopefully he will have some benefit out of it. So usually he used to get the bhiksha and give it to his wife. One day his wife, so that day his wife came out and showed him, Swami, you usually get all this bhiksha. There are these shiny objects in there. I don't recognize what these things are. See, that was the way they lived. Just imagine if a lady, she comes to her husband and says these gold coins, almost everybody in the world will understand what the gold coin is, what a value of the gold coin, what the value of a gold coin is, right? Their mindset was so focused just on Perumal. They did not have any of these material pursuits that when she looked at that gold coin, she didn't even realize what that was. She came to Swami and said, what, I don't know what to do with these things. I don't know, this doesn't look like something I can cook. So Swami took it. He didn't even want to touch it with his hand. He took a stick and said, these are actually insects. We don't need these insects. Let me take these insects out. And he flicked those gold coins away out of that bowl of rice and said, okay, now you can cook the rest. That is the level of austerity. That is the level of self-control. Because remember, Swami Deshikan was such a great poet. Swami Deshikan was a great scholar. If he wanted, he could be enjoying all kinds of material happiness, right? He could have been a very rich man, right? But he did not. He chose that because this concept of Damyata, that is what will take us towards Perumal. If Pillai Rangavanidasa was only looking at his wife throughout his life, he would not have got the feet of Swami Ramanuja, right? Similarly, Swami Deshikan, this life of austerity is what gave him access to Perumal's feet. Okay, so that obviously, when you think of Swami Deshikan, the first thing you think of is his austerity, right? Okay, next is the quiz question. You can see in my next screen that is showing up. You can see the question. What is the name of the stotram Swami Deshikan wrote about the virtues of austerity? Like what is the greatness of austerity? Swami Deshikan wrote a stotram about it, right? Anyone has an answer? Vairagya Panchakam. Excellent. Vairagya Panchakam. How many shlokas are there in the Vairagya Panchakam?
There's 5.
Okay, so 5 plus 1. Okay, good. So the name of the work is Vairagya Panchakam, and there, it's a beautiful stotram that Swami has written, especially the 5th shloka there, where he uses the word dhanam. Dhanam means wealth. He uses the word dhanam in that slokam so many times, but even despite using the word dhanam, he basically says all this material wealth is not what I want. My real wealth is Perumal. And then the final slokam he says, Astime hasti shailagre vastu paitamaham dhanam. That I have all this wealth. I also have a wealth. I also need wealth. But my wealth is sitting on top of a mountain. I don't keep it in a locker. Okay? And that mountain is called Hastigiri. And the wealth on top of Hastigiri is the wealth that all my parents and my grandparents have left for me. And what is that wealth on top of Hastigiri? What is on top of Hastigiri? Who lives on top of Hastigiri? Sorry, say that again. Varadaraja Perumal. Yes, exactly. He says that basically he says, my wealth is Perumal. Okay? And similarly, the story of Swami Deshikan's how he gave things away is also well known. We know the story of, in the interest of time, I'll just move forward. We know the story of Sri Stuti, how this young brahmachari came to Swami, and Swami prayed to the feet of Prindevi Tayar, and she showered him with all these gold coins. Swami did not even take one of those gold coins. He said, you take everything. Tayar showered all these gold coins for Swami's words, for Swami Deshikan's words. Right? Swami Deshikan wrote the Sri Stuti in praise of Tayar. But Swami did not take even one of the coins. He said, yeah, this is all for you. And he gave it to gave it to the brahmachari. So that is also something that we can remember from Swami Deshikan's life. Similarly, Swami's compassion. See, remember, compassion is not just in forgiving people for their mistakes or for giving things away. Swami's compassion, the standing evidence of Swami Deshikan's compassion, is all the innumerable works, innumerable books that Swami Deshikan has left for us. If Swami's, despite, I mean, we've been through this a lot of times, all of these stories that you hear almost every week, we hear something about Swami Deshikan. Swami lived in times that were very, very difficult ones. Swami Deshikan's times, there were a lot of political issues. Swami had to fear for his life. Ranganathan himself was not, Nambarumal himself was not in Srirangam. Despite that, Swami took so much effort to write so many books. That is because of the compassion he had for the future generations. Okay, so Dayadhvam is like have daya and write, and that's how Swami Deshikan expressed his compassion. So we have just a few minutes left, but the closest example of somebody who lived a life of Damyata, Datta, and Dayadhvam was Srimad Mukkur Aishingar. Mukkur Aishingar was the 44th Jiyar of Srimad Ahobila Mutt. He adorned the Acharya Pidam of the Ahobila Mutt for a long period of time, over 30 years. And over that long period of time, Srimad Aishingar, there are so many stories of Srimad Aishingar's life, so many things we can learn from Srimad Aishingar's, the way he lived, the things he did, the things he taught us just by his own actions. The teaching of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad in saying Damyata, Datta, and Dayadhvam, we don't need to look at something that happened 1,000 years ago in Puliyarangavallidasa's life. We don't need to look at something 750 years ago in Swami Deshikan's life. We can see it in Srimad Mukkur Aishingar's, the way he lived. And he has, at least with people of Adiyan's age, he has even overlapped, right? Even Adiyan has seen Sri Mukkur Aishingar, he is Adiyan's Acharyan. So we have a connection with him of the Acharya Parampara that has handed down these messages. So let us see some examples of how Damyata, Datta, and Dayadhvam can be seen in Srimad Mukkur Aishingar's life. Okay, Mukkur Aishingar became the 44th Jiyar of Ahobila Mutt, right? He became the 44th Jiyar of Ahobila Mutt, not in Srirangam, not in a very pre-planned way. He became the Jiyar of Ahobila Mutt in Naimisharanya. The 43rd Jiyar of Srimad Ahobila Mutt, Devanarulaham Aishingar, he, unlike Mukkur Aishingar, who was there, who was the Acharyan for over 30 years, Devanarulaham Aishingar lived only for a short span of time. He fell sick when he was in Sancharam. He was in Naimisharanyam when he became very sick, and he reached Perumal's feet. At that point, immediately there was a need for the next Acharya. Mukkur Aishingar was someone who was very close to Devanarulaham Aishingar to the 43rd Jiyar, and he was doing a lot of Kainkaryam too. He was a great Vidwan, doing a lot of Kainkaryam too. Devanarulaham Aishingar, but at the time he had no notice, right? They were not expecting that they will need a new Acharya immediately. But immediately when the need arose, Mukkur Aishingar gave up his Grihasthashramam and took on the role of a sannyasi. Giving up the Grihasthashramam is a huge thing, and to give up your Grihasthashramam like suddenly, all of a sudden, and dedicate yourself to the service of Perumal, right? That shows a superior degree of this concept of Damyata. So he became the 44th Jiyar, and then by the grace of Malolan, he had an illustrious run as the Acharyan of Srimad Ahobila Mutt. So the way Srimad Aishingar, even just the way he took on the role of a sannyasi and became the Acharyan, is something we all have something to learn about. Not all of us is going to have to make that huge sacrifice, but just the way Srimad Aishingar made that sacrifice tells us in our own ways we have these small opportunities to do service to Perumal. We have to give up our material attachments and become somebody who is worthy of Perumal's service. Datta. Srimad Aishingar's benevolence, how gracious Srimad Aishingar was, and how large-hearted Srimad Aishingar was. There are so many stories about it. One of those stories, some of you may have heard the story, but it's a relatively famous story about Srimad Aishingar. This happened when Srimad Aishingar was in the village of Mukkur. Mukkur is his native town, and Srimad Aishingar was camped in Mukkur for a reasonable amount of time. So this happened on a random day. It wasn't like a major occasion, and I think it was a very, as usual, a hot summer afternoon, and Srimad Aishingar was resting in the front of his ashram. And what happened was, there was this vendor, the street vendor, and the street vendor was a guy who was selling aluminum vessels. Okay, aluminum vessels. He was just like the person in the story. Obviously, it's not the picture of the actual person, but just like the person in this picture, he had a lot of these vessels. He was an old man. He was carrying these vessels and trying to sell them from door to door. He came to Mukkur, and he was going from village to village. And in that time in Mukkur village, Srimad Aishingar had camped. Perumal was there, and obviously there is no buyer of aluminum vessels, right? When Perumal is there, they don't cook in aluminum vessels. They have no need for aluminum vessels, but still he had come there. It was a hot afternoon. He was looking tired. So Srimad Aishingar called the guy, and he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "No, I have all these vessels. I have had a long day. I have not been able to make any sales. I have no money today, but I have to continue. Please tell." He didn't know that who he was talking to was Srimad Aishingar. And he said, I don't have any money, but I have to continue my trade. So Srimad Aishingar first called the Kankari Paras and said, "This person has not eaten. Just make sure that he has had his fill." So immediately he was given Perumal Prasadam and he had his food. Then Aishingar called him again and said, "All of these vessels you have, what is the value of all of that? If you sold all these vessels, how much would they have sold for?" He said, "Whatever number, 500 rupees, 600 rupees, whatever it is." And Srimad Aishingar said, he immediately asked the Kankari Paras to give him the 600 rupees and said, "You can give me, just assume that you have done all your sales for the day, give me all your vessels, go home a happy man." Remember, it's not like he's not selling perishable things, right? He wouldn't have sold all his vessels every day. He doesn't sell all his vessels. So this guy was overjoyed. He didn't understand. Kankari Paras were asking Aishingar, "What are we going to do with these aluminum vessels? We don't even touch these aluminum vessels. We don't even cook in them. Perumal, we can't cook for Perumal in aluminum vessels. What do we do?" Aishingar said, "Just follow my command." So they gave this guy the 500 rupees. The man was overjoyed. He fell at Aishingar's feet and went away. And then what Aishingar did was, he said, "Let us give all these vessels to all the villagers around us." So all the villagers around Mukkur got a bonus. Everybody got an aluminum vessel. They may not have had the money to buy a new vessel, but they all got an aluminum vessel. Aishingar did all of this only because there was an old, hungry street vendor who was walking down the street of Mukkur. He could not bear to see that guy's trouble, and immediately Aishingar bought all of this, paid all of this, and did for a stranger. That guy, probably, you ask him, he doesn't even know who was doing him this favor. Despite that, Srimad Aishingar's benevolence was there for everyone to see. Okay, another story, and I'll end very quickly with this. Sorry, we might take a couple more minutes. But Dayadham, Srimad Aishingar's compassion. And compassion is something that we have not only towards other human beings. This compassion is something we have, great people have, to all beings around us. Okay, and this is another famous story this is of something that happened when Srimad Aishingar was camped in Srirangam. What happened then was, of course, as you all probably know, there's always an elephant in the madam, right? And what had happened then was that, and you probably know that elephants from time to time, they do have some physical afflictions because of which they become very violent. Okay, so as it happened, the elephant in the madam had grown a bit older and it started to become very violent. So when it becomes violent, what happens? Usually what happens is that when the elephant becomes violent, it starts to throw things. And an elephant is so big that it can throw things around, it can throw people around. Just imagine if an elephant gives you one kick, what will happen? So elephant was like giving kicks to people like that and was creating a lot of trouble. So what happened was that the word of this spread pretty quickly, and the collector, the sort of the administrative official in Srirangam, basically, he thought it became a law and order issue, right? Because if you suppose elephant causes some danger to human beings, then he's responsible. So he got very angry and he came like guns blazing to the madam and said, you know what, this elephant has gone out of control. We have to kill this elephant. So he said, we'll bring a gun and we'll shoot the elephant. And sorry, we cannot do anything about it, but that's what we'll do. So obviously he came to the madam, right? Came to the madam, and Srimad Aishinger said, sorry, this is private property. Now you don't necessarily immediately have jurisdiction.
Alexa, stop.
Sorry, I'm not Alexa, but yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
There was like an
yeah.
There was a reminder.
Don't worry. I'm not okay Google either. So so Srimad Aishinger said, as long as he's not going on public property, as long as he's on private property, he's my responsibility. He being the elephant, and you have no business coming with a gun to kill the elephant. Go away, and I will not let you do this. So the collector was pretty angry. So all the Kankirabaras took him aside and said, look, we will make sure that nothing happens. Please go away. And the other thing to know about Srimad Aishinger was that he was very assertive. He was very strong-willed, very strong-minded. So if he said something, even if you are the collector, you cannot go against that. So the collector was still angry. He said, look, maybe I'll give you one day, but tomorrow we are coming with a gun. I will bring police. And if I have to restrain all of you to kill that elephant, I will do it. So Srimad Aishinger, the story goes that he spent the whole night doing japam. He did not sleep a wink the whole night. At the end of this japam, throughout the whole night, and the elephant was truly out of control. Like in any other situation, the elephant would have been ready to be killed. So that elephant was truly out of control, and Aishinger spent the whole night doing japam. The next morning, he went to the elephant and just threw a little bit of mantrakshadaya on the elephant's head. Okay, Aishinger's the benefit of all that japam wasn't the mantrakshadaya. Aishinger threw that mantrakshadaya on that elephant's head, and slowly and steadily, just in front of everybody. This is not like a strange story that that could have been changed over time. This is things that people who are still alive have seen. That elephant slowly and steadily calmed down, and it got rid of its rage. And when the collector came in a few hours, he was astonished to see that this elephant, which was truly out of control yesterday, was behaving totally normal. And I know I have seen that elephant. That elephant lived for a very long time. It lived even until Srimad Aishinger went to Sri Vaikuntha. That elephant would have the one that would have been killed by that collector went on to live a long life and do service to Perumal. Which is why even today, Srimad Mutt Aishinger is of course a standing example of how our acharyas had compassion even to animals who were serving Perumal. You will see even today when you go to Sri Sannidhi, that Sri Sharari is given not just to the people, the human beings who are there. It is given even to the elephant. It is given even to the animals who are serving Perumal. Even the animals who are serving Perumal are given Bharasamarpanam, so that when they at the end of their life, they go straight to Sri Vaikuntham without having to go through any other janmas. So Srimad Mutt Aishinger is of course a standing example of it. All of our acharyas have had this feeling of compassion or this instruction of Dayadhvam that was given by Prajapati to the Asuras, and that is something that we should all have. all our Aishingers uphold that, and it's there for us, for all of us to see. Okay, so again, Damyata, Datta, and Dayadham, all three of those things you can see in the great life that Srimad Mukur Aishinger had. So many other stories that you will hear of when you talk to people about Srimad Aishinger's life, which is why whenever we get the chance, we should talk to our elders about the lives of our acharyas, and there will be so much to learn from all of that. Okay, so before we finish, very quick quiz question. I guess you can see on my other screen what the question is. Where is Srimad Mukur Aishinger's Vrindavanam situated?
Srirangam.
Srirangam, excellent. Okay, that's good. Srimad Aishinger's Vrindavanam is in Srirangam. Whenever we go to Srirangam, we should all remember not just to go to the temple and have a darshan of Perivarumal and Namperumal. We should also make it a point to go to Dashavadaran Sannidhi and go to the Vrindavanam of our Acharyas over there. And Srimad Mukur Aishinger's Vrindavanam is very much there, along with a couple of more Vrindavanams that you all might have also seen. Okay, and the 45th Aishinger's Vrindavanam is also right there next to Mukur Aishinger's Vrindavanam. Anyway, so in summary, sorry, I've taken a few extra minutes of your time today, but the message of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is clear from the lives of all of our acharyas. Okay, so the message we have to take away from stories from Srimad Ramanuja's life, from Swami Deshikan's life, from Srimad Aishinger's life, all of these things is that we have to have self-control. And by self-control, we mean take our energies out of material things and put it at the feet of Bhagavan. Similarly, give more than we take, give more than we receive, and have compassion. That compassion is not just for human beings, it's compassion to everything that lives and breathes around us. Okay, sorry, I've taken some extra time of yours, but thank you so much. We'll say Acharya Tanin and finish off. Shri Ranganatha Shatagopayateendra Drashtam Lakshmina Summa Shadajit Karmeka Patram Shri Rangavera Raghurat Shatago Udrityam Vedanta Deshikaitendra Maham Prapadye Shrimad Ranga Shataridanyagaral Labdhagamantadvayam Shrimad Veera Raghut Bahadya Shadajit Pada Ravinda Ashrayam Shrimad Vedavadam Sadeshikete Karunya Vikshaspadam Severangadhrina Shasanamasham Narayanam Yoginam Vedanta Deshikete Shakadakshalabdhatrayam Tazara Anavadyagunam Budhagrayam Narayana Dietidur Yakavabhiktam Shri Ranganatha Itishekaram Ashriyamaha Srimate Shri Vanchadago Shri Vedanta Deshikete Indra Mahadeshikaya Namaha Srimate Shri Lakshmi Nasamadivya Paduka Seva Shri Vancho Shri Narayana Indra Mahadeshikaya Namaha Srimate Shri Vanchadago Shri Ranganatha Indra Mahadeshikaya Namaha. Thank you, everyone.